right, so the next topic we're going to talk a little bit about is related to access control, and specifically going back into how organizations manage accounts. If I was to ask you, you get hired by big company tomorrow, and you go in for an interview and they make you an offer letter, and what I'll do is I'll just draw you right here a nice little stick man, right? You're really happy, you got the job, you got your hands up in the air, and hey, I got the job. If you were to put the hat on of the hiring manager now, or the company, what am I going to need to do for this guy? What am I going to need to do for this guy or girl that to get them in a position to be successful, to start being productive in or around day one? Well, people have thought about that, and there's been a lot of money that's been poured into coming up with solutions to try to crack that nut, because I know that I've been in situations before where we've hired people, and especially if they don't have a clearance and they're wanting to do work with federal government, sometimes that clearance can take up to 90 days, and you can't have access to a government computer until you have clearance. And I had one girl that was hired that she didn't get her access to the system for almost the entire 90 days, which was absolutely ridiculous. And if you think about it, how much money was wasted just waiting around for that clearance to come in, it's quite embarrassing. But in this particular case, what are some things that this person would need on day one in order to be productive? Go ahead and tell me.
Gonna need a machine to work on.
Yeah, you're gonna need a PC, right? So PC, laptop. What else?
Telephone.
You gotta have a phone. That's an important thing, right? Although that would kind of be a blessing in disguise if you didn't. You wouldn't have to worry about people calling you. Although a lot of times people give out their cell phones, which is not the best thing in the world. But what else?
User.
Sorry. All right, so user ID, phone, laptop. You're going to probably need a desk, right? What else?
Depending on the company, a badge.
Yep, you're going to have a badge. And then coupling this user ID, you're going to need account access, right? So some sort of account access, and we talked about that in another video here. But essentially, this account access is kind of one of the key, most important things of a new user, because if you're not going to have access to certain things, then that's a big deal. So that's where this term provisioning comes into play here. And if you think of the words provision, usually you think about, hey, I'm going out on a mission, and I need provisions. I need some food to keep me solvent. Well, the same sort of thing here is I need something to make sure I'm going to be productive. So I'm going to provision some access to this person. And inside of these provisioning systems, typically it will take the person's identity, and then you'll work with these things called authoritative sources. So that may be like HR down here. It could be you're going to need electronic deposit, so you're going to have to work with finance to fill out the financial form, so they can get you the money, like payroll or finance, So who are the authoritative sources? Who owns which department in your organization owns these things, right? So for phone, for desk, I'd say probably physical security, or maybe facilities, or a department like that. For PC, laptop, user ID, those are going to probably be ID or IT, right? For account access, that's going to probably be IT as well. For badge, that's going to be physical security, and then HR would get all your all your paperwork that you need to do, and make sure you have all your training, whatever that is. So this authoritative source is really who's in charge of specific things within your organization. And what you do, or what companies have been doing, is they've been working with these identity repositories here. Like we talked about before, that big directory server that has a list of everybody in the organization and every application that the organization uses. And what they'll do is they'll work with each department to figure out who is the authoritative source for a particular asset that this person needs to have. And then once they do that, they go through and talk about specific things that this person needs to have over here. And there's probably at least a dozen more that we could add on to here that I'm missing, like that parking spot right up front that you probably deserve, or all sorts of other stuff that's out there. But you work with these authoritative sources, these departments, and then you will see how you can automatically provision access or provision these things to this individual based off of some web forms that they would fill out. Or maybe on your first day or before your first day, you would have your hiring manager say, hey, I need this person to mirror this type of access, and then you give them a username, and then what it does is the system will go out, it'll fill out the form automatically for you, and then provision these accounts for you, or automatically on the fly create these accounts for you, or access, or put in requests for things. So then you have the full line of audits and account access control through change management, based off of the specific provisioning of those accounts. And it's really adds a lot of rigor to your processes because of the steps that were taken in order to get access to everything. I was reading an article that in the business we want somebody to be ready to go between 0 and 1. And what does that mean? Well, this is day 0. So 0800 when they start to the end of that day where you actually bill your first day, you want them to be ready to work right in here. You want them to be able to have all of this stuff that we talked about. So really day 1, you want them to be able to work. I was reading something about the trait. Usually it does not happen, and what it is here is usually we don't see employees be productive, completely productive, until around day 21. Day 21, okay? So if you're making $50 an hour, right, that would be day 21, which essentially would be 15 business days, okay? $50 an hour, that would be 40, 80, 120, so 120 hours that you would work, and I'm paying you $50 an hour, so I'm looking at $6,000 to get you to sit around and not be productive. And if you take that across your organization, let's say of 1,000 people, and any given year you have changeover that's roughly 10%, you're looking at a large chunk of change that you could automate for provisioning and try to get this number closer to this number. And that's really what the goal is here.